Hey, Sean. This is one of the only videos I've ever made without a Cole hat on. This hat, I don't know what brand it is, but my friend Allison made it for me and put glitter all over the bill, so thanks, Allison. In this video, I'm telling you to sell your gear. Sell your video gear, your photography gear, sell it. Obviously, not all of it. You need some of it. But the mistake that I made for a long time was just sort of amassing gear, more and more gear. And I would tell myself that when I needed to upgrade, I would sell something. I'd find somebody on Craigslist or something and get a really good price for it. But unless you're actively putting time into finding a buyer, and there are some like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and things where you can find buyers in a timely fashion. But for me, I always struggled to find a buyer for, I'm selling an APS-C 10 to 18 millimeter lens. And that's a niche market, and trying to find somebody to buy that, I ended up waiting months, and during that time, the value just dropped. And so what I recommend you do is find a partner. And for me, I chose Adorama, and I switched from B&H to Adorama after a few customer service issues. But this isn't sponsored by Adorama. They don't know I'm making this or anything. I'm definitely not getting paid for anything. But what Adorama lets you do is take a box, whatever box, and they give you a label, and you just put whatever you want in that box and ship it to them. And then they'll respond to you and say, okay, this is the value of those things. And do you want us to keep them and give you that value, or do you want us to send them back to you? And this system has been great because for me, I had a ton of junk and old stuff that was practically useless, like old little lights that ran off AA batteries that were LED panels they were newer, whatever, like CN216 lights and CN160 lights. They were great when I was first getting started, but there's not really a market to sell those. And so by putting them in this box, I cleared out a bunch of old gear that I didn't want or use at all in years that was just slowly losing value. And I know it does have value to somebody. I just struggled to find those people. And I donate sometimes gear to institutions and schools and stuff, but you need money. And with revenue a little tight in 2020 in the video production industry, I thought it wise to sell it. And so I started selling some stuff to Adorama. And the first thing I sold was I had a bunch of APS-C lenses. I had sold my A6500 crop sensor Sony camera. I had sold that to somebody along with one lens. But I had like 4 other lenses that I had bought, and I wasn't finding buyers for them. So by putting them in the box, I sold them and I got money for them. And there's 2 things here to keep in mind. Number one, depending on who you partner with to sell your gear, Adorama is great where it's the same value whether you cash out or trade in. Some people will give you more trade-in value than they give you if you just take the cash out. And while they technically don't give you extra value for trade-in, they work with you. And their people will give you discounts. And I stretched some serious money from trading in my aperture lights to get a whole bunch of stuff. I traded in my Zoom F4 field recorder and got my Zoom F6 field recorder. And these trade-ins made it possible to upgrade my gear and stay with the most current gear, which has things and features that the old gear doesn't. But the key is, and the second thing is, don't wait too long, because the longer you wait, the more value you lose in this gear. And so as one example, I knew that the A7S III, which I'm recording this on, I knew it was on the horizon. I knew it was coming, but I didn't quite know when. And when the pandemic hit and production started to scale back, I took my A7S II and I sold it to Adorama and got the money for it because I knew that the value of the A7S II would drop. Its resale value would drop as soon as the A7S III came out. And so I wanted to maximize that, and I knew I could wait. I knew that there was time for me to not have a camera because it was the pandemic. I didn't need 2 bodies. I still had my A7S III, which is around here, so there it is. I still have my A7S III, and so when I had one shoot where I needed 2 cameras, I was able to borrow one from a friend of mine who borrows lenses from me, and we've got a good symbiotic relationship. So that's the other piece. sell your gear. Don't wait too long. Pick a partner you trust, but don't replace everything you sell. If you're anything like me, you've probably bought way too much gear over the past few years, and you don't use most of it. And so if there's stuff you can sell and get that cash and invest it in better cameras or lenses or things you'll really get mileage out of, a lot of these gimmicks and sliders and motion control things that we've gotten over the years, a lot of them we can just rent if we need. And there's things that you can buy that you'll use, but there's things that, like lights and stands and stuff like that, where on bigger productions, I know before I would need a third camera body, I'm gonna be renting lights and scrims and stands and all these things anyway. And so maintaining an inventory of that on my own gets expensive and it depreciates so quickly. And so if you know you're gonna use a big cinema light 3 times a year, don't buy it. And if you own it, maybe sell it, use that money towards something else, and then on the few occasions where you need it, rent it and bill it out to the client. And I found that having a good relationship with somebody you can sell gear with, for me that's Adorama, and finding a good local rental house or even a nationwide rental house. So locally, I use Bad Dog Pictures here in St. Louis, their rental house that's like a mile away. And when I need C-stands, it's like $3 a day to rent a C-stand. And so for $20, I can have more C-stands than I know what to do with, and I don't have to load them all into my basement here. I can just go pick them up on my way to the shoot, use them, and drop them off at the end of the day. And that's been really helpful. But also a place like borrowlenses.com, Lens Pro to Go, those have been fantastic, where if you know you're gonna need a stabilizer for a week, if you know you're gonna need some lenses, if you wanna try that Laowa probe lens, there are great ways to try that. And maybe you shouldn't own it all yourself. And maybe if there's a big piece of gear that you've got, it might be a little excessive and you're not really getting your money's worth and it's just depreciating. And so unload it, sell it, rent stuff when you need it. And if you sell it early enough, you can use that to upgrade gear. And again, I upgraded my lights. I sold my aperture lights and got this Quasar that's serving as my fill light, and forgot to turn that on. And that Quasar, where I just had this balance of trade-in value sitting at Adorama, and it let me say like, hey, I have this project coming up. It would be good to have X. And so through that, I've gotten my F6, I've gotten some Quasar lights, I got my DJI FPV drone controller, I have an Insta360 1X2 on its way, and this was all done without having to lay out any extra cash. I just took stuff that I wasn't using from my inventory and gave it to Adorama in exchange for new stuff. So if you're anything like me and you've spent years accumulating gear, get rid of it, sell it, rent what you can, bill it to the client, and use that trade-in value to invest in up-to-date good gear that's gonna take care of you and that you're truly gonna get your value out of. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.